We are now on Daf Chav Tesamid Beis, and we're furthering our study of the Machlokes between Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Li'achan Afilu Machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan takes the opposite position as we saw earlier on Amid Aleph in the name of Rabbi Lazar, and he says that the Machlokes is Dafka Li'achan Afilu as to whether or not if somebody was damaged when he walked by on the shards, and the Baal HaKad was mafkir the shards, whether you chayev. Mafkir nizak v'le'achan afilas lefilu. So the Gemara is now going to clarify Rabbi Yochanan's interpretation of Machlokas, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, b'shas nefila mai. What is the implication if there's no Machlokas b'shas nefila, divrei kol patur? Even Rabbi Meir would hold that niskalav poshei avahami to come Rabbi Yochanan Kamma later on and Daf Lamed Aleph, two blot from them. Rabbi Yochanan is going to say Lo Mastis Rabbi Meir Hi Diom Niskal Posheahu. So we see that Rabbi Yochanan attributes to Rabbi Meir the position that Niskal's Poshea. Mechlal Rabbi Meir is Mechayev. So we see that it's a double machlokas, not only Li'achan Afilu, but also B'shas Nafila as to whether or not Niskal's Poshea. Ve'elamai, maybe we should make the diuk in Rabbi Yochanan in the opposite direction. That Divrei Akol is Chayav. In the case of Nitkal, everybody agrees that Nitkal is a Poshea, and he's Chayav. But Minikam Rabbi Yochanan Kamma. Rabbi Yochanan is quoted later on as saying, Lo, Temas Nisa, Rabbi Meir, Hidiom, and Niskal Poshea, who don't attribute the Mishnah to Rabbi Meir, who holds Niskal Poshea. That implies that there's someone who argues with Rabbi Meir. Mechlal, the Patri Rabbanan, the Chachamim rejected, and they hold that Niskal Lav Poshea. So what sense can we make about the statement of Rabbi Yochanan implying that B'shas Nefil is no machlokas? If you're going to say B'shas Nefil is no machlokas because they're called potter, that can't be because Rabbi Meir holds and Rabbi Yochanan quotes Rabbi Meir saying Niskal Poshea. And if you're going to say that the implication of Rabbi Yochanan is that if it was B'shas Nefila, then everybody agrees you're potter. How could that be? We know that according to Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Meir holds it Niskal Poshea. And not only that, the Chachamim rejected Rabbi Meir and they hold Niskal Lav Poshea. So it's impossible to say that Divrei Akol is Chayav if it was Shalom B'shas Nefila. Ella, says the Gemara, we're going to have to reinterpret Rabbi Yochanan. Really, Rabbi Yochanan holds that there's machlokas tanoim bein b'shas nefila, bein b'liachar nefila. Ela hakam mashmalon. What exactly is Rabbi Yochanan coming to teach me when he says the machlokas liachar nefila, the mafkin nechas nezaka, the hacha hu the patri rabbanon, the onus hu aval mafkir nezaka bi'alma mechayv. Rabbi Yochanan wants to tell me a big chiddush over here. And when he says that the machlokas is shalo b'shas nefila, but rather liachar nefila, what he's trying to tell you is that the Rabbanan say you're potter here because you're mafkir nechasav. Why? Because there was no yitziras hamazik, meaning that since Nitkal Lav Poshea, therefore the Rabbanan say he could be mafkir his nezach of liachar nefila, because the nefila itself was onus. So the creation of the bar when he broke the kad was ones, because he wasn't responsible for looking and being careful, and he slipped and fell. But that's only here in this case because he created the bar ba'ones. He was a Niskal Lav Poshea, and therefore he could be mafkir his nezach. But in general, if a person says, I created a bar, not ba'onos, and now I'm going to walk away from it, I'm going to say it's hefker. No, even the Chacham would agree in that case that he's chayav. Itmar, now we have a machlokas amoron as far as mafkin nezakav. Mafkin nezakav, after the nefila, he was mafkir his nezakim. And not only that, we're holding now that Niskal Poshea, or he puts something in Rishus Ramim as a takola b'pshia. Is Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Lazar have machlokas about this? Chad Omer Chayav. One opinion says he's chayav because he was mafkir his nechasim, v'chad Omer Potter. I'm sorry. One says he's chayav even though he was mafkiz nechasim, because he was poshea by putting down his nechasim in Rishus Harab. Chadamar potter, which means that a person is only chayav a bar if he digs a bar in his backyard and he's mafkir around the bar, but he retains ownership over the bar. Here too, even though he created a bar b'pshia, by putting something down in Rishus Harab, nevertheless he can be mafkir it, and with a technical loophole, he's potter. The Gemara clarifies. Lema man de machayev Rabbi Meir, man de potter kirabanon. Okay. We had the Shita Rabbi Meir back on Chav Chesam and Beis in the Brisa, that Nishbar Kadav lo Silko, or Nafal Gmal of lo Mido, Rabbi Meir says Yechayev. And therefore, if, again, the Gemara used the term man de machai, because we don't know between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar who holds what. One holds Yechayev, one holds Yepotter. But we don't know which one holds what. So we'll call it man de machai. The anonymous, unnamed person who said Yechayev, he must hold like Rabbi Meir, that in the case of Nishbar Kado, etc., all right, he wasn't Masalik the shards, and therefore he's Chayev. And man de potar, again, I don't know if it's Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Elazar, but whoever says you're potar in the case of Mafkin and Zakov, he holds like the Rabbanon, and the Rabbanon hold that even after you fell and you decided not to pick up the shards, but leave them there as Sarab, but you were Mafkin and Zakov, you're potar. Gemara rejects this. You don't really have to go into that narrow pathway. I'll leave it to Rabbi Meir Kuli Amalo Pligi. Everybody agrees that according to Rabbi Meir, whether it's Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Meir certainly says that if a person is mafkir and zakov, he's chayav. Ki pligi, I'll leave the Rabbana. We don't understand the Rabbana. One way of understanding the Rabbana is Rabbana hold that you can be mafkir yunachasav after the kad breaks. And man de potter Rabbanon, and he's holding like whoever it is, Rabbi Elazar or Rabbi Yochanan holds like the Rabbanon that you put. Man de machayev, Amalach, Anadi Amri Afilu LeRabbanon. If we're going to say Yechayev, you could work that out even according to the Rabbanon. Di'ad Kalo Patri Rabbanon, El B'mafkin Echos of the Hacha, Mishum Dianasu. If Nishbar Kado be honest, then you could say that according to Chachamim, he can be mafkir in his zakov. He's not chayav neither for the yitziras habar nor for the ownership of the bar. So therefore he's potter. But in general, when he was responsible through his negligence to create the bar, and now he wants to be mafkir the bar, the Rabbanan say that you're chayav. And now the Gemara is going to try to figure out between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar, which one holds potter, which one holds chayav. To stayim, I have a proof to Rabbi Elazar who di Omar chayav. He's the one who says that even if you're mafkir, you're nezakav, you still remain chayav. The Omar Rabbi Elazar mishum Rabbi Shmuel shnei dvarim sheina b'shus shalom masana kos gilei b'shus so ve'elei barish sarab v'chamet mishei shal salamala. And this is a very, very famous Gemara in Psachim Adaf Vav. The Gemara establishes that in two cases, you don't have technical ownership, according to the law, according to halacha, but nevertheless, the Torah considers that you're as if it were yours for chiyuv. For example, you dig a bar b'shus harabim, and it's not yours. I mean, you dug the bar, but it's not your bar. You don't own the bar, and yet the Torah says it's your bar. What does it mean? Torah says it's your bar. Not that you could sell it, not that you own a piece of Rishus Harabim, not that you could draw the water from the bottom of the cistern. No. It's asa kasav kila b'shusa l'chayvo b'nizakin, as if it's mamono shehizik, even though technically it's not his mama. And that's going to lead us to the conclusion that Rabbi Elazar is the one who said chayav in the case of mafkir nezaka. And then this chametz after it becomes asur by noah, and once it's asur by noah, then it's not yours. I'm sorry, technically it's not yours. But the Torah came along and said, we're going to consider it as yours. And therefore, you have to get rid of the chametz. Tistayim. So we prove from this that Rabbi Lazar is the one who holds that the Torah is machayiv for chofer bar b'shusarab, even though you don't own it, and therefore mafkir nezakov li'achar nefila is pot. So Gemara asks the following question. Me, Omar Rabbi Lazar Haki, we have a problem in reconciling Rabbi Lazar with a different statement of Rabbi Lazar. And this other statement of Rabbi Lazar is going to come up on Daf Lamed in the context of the Mishnah on Daf Lamed about a chofer as a goal. Frek the Gemara of Omar Rabbi Lazar Ibcha, he says just the opposite. It's not. We have a Mishnah chofer as a goal versus a rab. Huzak by ma'acher chayav bin nizko. That if you take gulal, feces, and you move it from one place to the other, then if somebody is damaged in that new place where you located it, you're chayav. There, my Rabbi Lazar adds the following comment to explain the Mishnah Lo Shana. When the Chacham the Mishnah say Yechai Fahofich as Agol, you have to pay for Tashlumi Nesek. That's Ella Sheniskave Lizkos Bahem. Here you have to say Niskave Lizkos Bahem literally, not like the case of the Charsis that we discussed on Omer Al. So, what do you do with Galal? I mean, who wants to pick up a piece of what and acquire ownership on it? The answer is it's used as fertilizer. And therefore, Rabbi Lazar says you're chayav because you own the bar. You see that the precondition for the chiyuv bar, according to Rabbi Lazar, is ownership of the bar. And yet, we just came to the conclusion that it was Rabbi Lazar, not Rabbi Yochanan, who holds that you're not chayav for bar unless you have ownership over the bar. I'm sorry, that it was, right? That was Rabbi Yochanan, I meant to say. But Rabbi Lazar holds that even if you don't retain ownership over the bar, you're still chayav because you created the bar. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Ada bar Rava, you're right. According to Rabbi Lazar, as we said before, mafkin takaloso is chayav. Nevertheless, if hofich is agolol and lo niskaven liskos, he's part of why Sheikh Ziril of Kamma. The Mishnah is talking about a case where he picked up the galal and he put it right down in its original place. He had second thoughts about this galal. And therefore, it's as if he never touched the galal at all. He's reestablishing exactly what was there before he picked up the galal. And therefore, he's not considered a chofer bar b'shusarab. He didn't create the bar. And therefore, he's part of it unless he was zoche in the bar. If we want to clarify what Rav Ada bar Rava is saying by giving a mashal, lemotzi bar megula v'kiso chazu v'gilo. What happened? A man finds a bar that's exposed, and in the Rosh Hashanah, and he decides to cover it. Then he uncovers it again. He's going to be part of an iskei bar. Why? Because he is replacing the situation as it was before he touched it. And the same thing applies in the nimshal of Glolim, that he moved from one place to the other, and he put it back and replaced it into its original place. How can this mashal be similar to the case of Glolim, that he moved from one place to the other? Hasam, in the case where he covered the bar, Lois Talik Lumaisa Risha, the original creation of the bar by somebody else still exists. Just right now, on a temporary measure, we have a Band-Aid situation where we cover the bar. But as soon as he, as soon as he removes the covering over the bar, we're back to square one. It's exactly like the situation existed b'Maisa Rishon. But here in the case of Glolim, is talik lahu ma'aser rishon. The very moment he picks up the goal and replaces it, it's not there anymore. And so the original ma'aser rishon, we'll call Ruvain, is completely gone. Holodami, if you want to give a mashal to the case of mafkir nezachav liachar nefila, then lodami ella lemot. If you want to give a mashal to the case of Glulim, that he moved from one place to the other, ella le'adam hamotzi bar megula utmama. He finds an open bar and he fills it in, and then the bar doesn't exist anymore. Chazav v'chafer. Now he redigs the bar. This talik lu ma'aser rishon. Reuven, who originally dug the bar, is out because now it was filled in. The kaimel of Rishu. So now, when this Shimon digs the bar, he's creating virtually a new bar, and therefore he's chayav b'tashlumi bar. And here too, once he picks up the glolim, he was mesalik the takola. He removed the takola of the first guy who put the glolim there, and now when he puts it back down, he's creating a brand new takola, brand new golem. So now we have to reinterpret Rabbi Elazar. We're back to square one. What does Rabbi Elazar say that a hofech, etc., is hizek ben acher chayav b'nizko? But only if he was niskaven lizkos, but if he was not niskaven lispo, but he's potter. Elomar Avashi kshafacha lefachos mishlosha. When does Rabbi Elazar say that if it was lo niskaven lizkos begol, he's potter for tashlume nezek on the golol? That's only in a case where he did not lift it up off the ground, or if he did, he lifted it up within 3 tvach from the ground. And we apply the principle of love. So in such a case, we cannot say that he was masalik the golol, the bar, because he didn't lift it up more than 3 tvachim. Now, there's something here that's a little bit counterintuitive. If he didn't lift it up 3 tvachim, then why is he potter? And the answer is because lo nistalik ma'aser rishon. No, it's Reuven put down the goal. If Shimon is coming to remove the goal, he's got to lift it up more than 3 tvachim. Now, if on the other hand he had kavanah to be kona it, then even within 3 tvachim, since the golol is hefker, he could be zochim in a hefker. And Rashi quotes a Gemara about Metzia Daf Kuf Yud Ches that you could be kona even with re'iyah if he had kavanah liknos. But kolsh came with hagbah, even though it was pachos mishlosha tvach. All right. You see the Tosas Dir Maskil Ella, he has a different approach. He says that he put it into his kalim and therefore he was zocher midin chatzeh. Fact the Gemara, my duch keri Rabbi Elazar liokme kigon shafach lefachos mishlosha. And since he didn't pick it up more than 3 tvachim, lo nistalik ma'aser rishon v'tayva dechinis kavi liskos ba, and he's only b'chayav if he acquires ownership on the golol, ha'aim is kavi liskos lo, and therefore Rabbi Elazar felt compelled to clarify the din of the Mishnah that in a case where he had kavanah liskos b'glolim, then he's chayav b'tashluvin and zikin, he has to pay damages for the bar that he owns. If he didn't have kavanah liskos ba, then he's not chayav in achrayis, and he's not responsible for any nezikin because the original ma'aser takola is still extant, Look, why did he go an easier way? Let's talk about a case where he's hofeches a goal. He picked up the goal more than 3 tefachim. He was misalik ma'aser rishon. V'afa gav lo niskavi liskos b'chayav. And why don't we say that he be chayav even if he didn't have kavanah liskos b'gavolim? But once he was misalik ma'aser rishon, that's enough for him to be chayav for creating the bar. And the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Maslis and Kshisa. Rabbi Loza had trouble with the language of the Mishnah. My ira hafach. Why did the Mishnah say hafach as a goal? Very strange language. Listening bia, it should have said that he lifted it. El shmami no kol hafach lamata vishloshu. Hafach means that he didn't lift it. It was below 3 tefachim. And if it was below 3 tefachim, then adayin lo nistaleg ma'aser rishon. Comes along Rabbi Loza and he adds that if he's miskaven lagbia and liskos, then he now has full responsibility for the book. Now it comes out that according to Rabbi Loza, mafkin izakov is potter. No, that doesn't make any sense. Again, I keep finding mistakes here in the Masechet. It drives me nuts. They didn't have an editor or what? Anyway, it comes out to mafkin echosov li'achar nefila according to Rabbi Lozer's chayav. Umi the Rabbi Lozer chayav Rabbi Yochanan potter. Right? If you've already established that in the matching here that the one who said chayav is Rabbi Lozer, then that implies that Rabbi Yochanan holds potter. Mi over Rabbi Yochanan hachi b'tanan. We have a Mishnah later on Daf Lamed. Is a person matzniya es hakotzes schuchis. This is tomorrow's daf, and he has some sharp items, and he hides them in rishus harabim or goder gidra b'kotzim, or he has a gader, a fence on the boundary between his property and the rishus harabim, and this fence was made of kotzim. Kotzim are very sharp. And Godesh and Rabim, if he had a fence that of stones, right, normal fence stones, and they fell into Rishus Rabim, and he didn't clear out the stones, okay, fine. That's the Mishnah. And Rabbi Yochanan says, Lo Shonu, when did the Chacham, the Mishnah, say that if a person makes this fence out of kotzim in his own private backyard, but it borders on Rishus Harabim, ela b'mafriach, amol b'mitzamtzem potur. Okay, let's try to understand the difference between mafriach and mitzamtzem. Mafriach means that he leaves part of the kotzim of these thorns and thistles jutting out into Rishus Harabim, and therefore he's virtually created a bar of Rishus Harabim. Then something called mitzamtzem, where he takes the kotzim and he squeezes them into his rishus, so there are no parts of these thistles that are sticking out into Rishus Harabim. Just the person came along and he walked immediately adjacent to the gader and he damaged himself. So you potter. The word clarifies mitzamtzem, my type of potter, la mishum davile bar Rishus Harabim. The Gemara in the Havamina thinks that the reason why you potter for mitzamtzem, not the way I said it, because you don't expect a person to walk adjacent to the gader, but rather be true because he created a bar Rishus Harabim. Why? His chatzar is his personal possession; he owns it, and Rabbi Yochanan holds that the Torah is not machayev a chofer bar if he digs the bar in his own rishus. Michlal, we should derive from this the chiyuv de bar Rishus Harabim. That according to Rabbi Yochanan, the Torah was machayev you for digging a bar Rishus Harabim, even though it's not his. And the only reason you're potter in this case is because it was mitzamtzem. Alma mafkin azok of chaya. We should derive from this that just like a person is chai for digging a bar, even though it's not his, So too, if he has shards on the ground and he decides to be mafkir, he still would be chayav mishum bar. So you can't tell me that Rabbi Elazar holds chayav and Rabbi Yochanan holds potter in the case of mafkir takaloso b'shisurim. Where it says lo, according to Rabbi Yochanan, mafkir is zakov potter. Mitzamtzei my time of potter, and now you'll ask me why is mitzamtzei is coats of potter? Simply because it's in his rishus, but it's takol to rishus rabim. Mishum di itmar Allah, Rabbi Acha v'reid Rabbi Ika fishein darkness shleil l'schachik v'ksolim. You don't have to anticipate that somebody's going to go so adjacent to the kotel that he's going to literally rub up against the kotel. So that's not called a bar rishus rabim. Frek the Gemara mi Omer Rabbi Yochanan hachi Omer Rabbi Yochanan lokis tam mishnah utnan, and we have a mishnah on Daf Nun Amid Beis that a person is chofer bar rishus rabim nofel esochel shorach hamor beis chayu. The person has to, if he digs a bar, and he's responsible therefore for the nezikin of a shorach hamor, he has to pay damages. So we're going to derive from this mishnah that a bar that the Torah says yechayev is chofer bar rishus rabim. So therefore, even a person puts a takol b'shus rabim, it seems that there's no cholik on this mishnah, and we should say halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan, according to Rabbi Yochanan, that chofer is chayav for tashlum in zikim, even though it's not his, and therefore takol b'shus rabim, even if he's mafkir, he should be chayav. El yolam Rabbi Yochanan Omar. Rabbi Yochanan holds chayav that if a person is mafkir nizakim, or affecting Gemara, now we got to go backwards. Ubida Rabbi Yochanan Omar chayav is Rabbi Elazar Omar potter, veha Omar Rabbi Elazar mishum Rabbi Yishmael shnei dvarim b'shus shalom asana koski l'shus avar b'shus rabim. So we see clearly that you could be chayav even though you don't own the nezik lo kasha adi deva other rabbi. In other words, Rabbi Elazar, when he says that mafkin zaka of liachan afila is potter b'shus rabim, is that's in the name of his rebbe, but he himself doesn't hold like that. So again, if Rabbi Elazar is saying that you're potter for being mafkin of zaka because you don't have ownership of the bar, that reflects the shita of. Just 1 second. The sheet of Rabbi Shmuel. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Rabbi Elazar holds that you're actually potter if you're mafkin and zakov. That which he quoted in the name of Rabbi Shmuel is he was quoting his Rebbe who holds that you chayav for bar even without ownership of the bar, even though you're mafkir the bar. But Rabbi Elazar himself never accepted this halacha of his Rebbe, Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, this leads us to the Mishnah here on Daf Lamed. Okay then, thanks for a great week of learning and wish you a Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much.